Hey everyone, JT from eBike Escape.
Ryan from eBike Escape.
And in today's video, we have what Rad told us was their most requested electric bike. And we've heard from other manufacturers that Trikes have been requested from them, but Rad finally did it. So let's get into the review.
Before we get started with the walk around, one request from JT and I: if you're looking at purchasing a Rad power bike or any other electric bike brand that we have an affiliate relationship with, please check out the links in the description. Clicking that link before you make your purchase is a free way to help support the channel and makes videos like this one possible. Thank you so much for your support. Other resources down in the description as well: our electric bike accessories list, top e-bike brands page, and finally our electric bike discounts code page, where we track all the deals on the electric bike brands that we follow. With that, let's get into the walk around. This is probably the most anticipated bike when I first heard about it, wanting to hop on for 2022. So let's check out the brand new Rad power bikes, RadTrike. If you're not familiar with our reviews, we'll start with the walk around, then we'll get into some first-person riding footage, and finally we'll get into some third-person riding footage where I'll give you my concluding thoughts on this super fun electric bike.
Starting up here in the front of the bike, we have something that we don't typically see, which is the motor in the front wheel. So this is the tried and true 750 watt peak Rad power bikes motor.
One thing that caught my attention right away on this electric bike is this is a bolt-on axle, as we see on front hub motors, but we have torque arms, not just on one side, they're actually on both sides. Rad power bikes really wants this wheel to stay where it's supposed to be, and we always like to see torque arms for their increased safety.
Jumping over to the brakes, these are the Radius mechanical disc brakes paired with a 180 millimeter front disc rotor. And these are the same brakes that we have seen on quite a few of the Rad power bikes. Rad Expand 5 comes to mind. And then also up here in the front, we have metal fenders, and you look, they are front and rear.
Yeah, metal fenders on a Rad power bike. This is actually a first for them. Usually they come with plastic fenders. Now you can see this trike sits low to the ground. These are 18 by 2.25 inch tires. They are made by Kenda, certainly set up for street riding, given you're not going to take this trike off-road. This is the same light that we see on other Rad power bikes models. I'm actually a pretty big fan of this light. It has a halo, which might not be visible on the camera, but it offers a lot of be-seen visibility. And then it has a center light that helps you see a little bit better at night. Of course, rechargeable lights are an additional option if you need more visibility. Moving on to the head tube, we have the 4-bolt pattern that we see on all the Rad power bikes. This means that this electric bike is compatible with all of the accessories that we've come to love from Rad power bikes. They offer a front rack with a small basket or a large basket. So lots of options for carrying cargo on this electric bike, both in the front and, as you'll see in a little bit, in the rear as well. I always like to talk about the cable management, and I think Rad power bikes did a pretty good job. They brought all their cables into one bundle. This is a neoprene sleeve, and the cables run externally, as you can see here. One unique thing we've seen on the other Rad power bikes Plus models is the option to add a USB port, because they do not have a USB port on the display. That's where this dongle comes into play, and you can purchase that accessory from Rad power bikes if you want to charge up your device. Rad power bikes has made this trike as portable as a trike can be. They have folding handlebars. These are very similar handlebars that we've seen on the Rad Expand 5. Really like the BMX style bars for a more upright riding position.
And one other cool thing about the BMX handlebars is that by simply adjusting these 4 front bolts, you can move the handlebars front and back and really adjust the cockpit to fit a larger spectrum of riders.
And if you're wondering about how this bike comes shipped, be sure to check out our full unboxing video. We'll throw a link in the top right-hand corner of your screen. Let's get into the cockpit.
Yeah, so this cockpit is a lot simpler than what we're used to seeing on a Rad power bikes. If you notice, there's no lever on the right side. There is simply just a twist grip throttle and a really nice lock-on ergonomic grip. As we move across, you'll notice that there is no display. We think that's partly to do with the fact that this is a single speed bike and that it is mostly meant to be accessible to a large list of riders. And so speed is not what this bike is meant to do. It is really just meant to give accessibility back to a portion of people that can't ride a typical bike.
With that being said, in the upcoming first-person riding footage, we'll get out our GPS speedometer app, and that might be something that you might want to use if you're looking at this electric bike.
Yeah. So, and then as we move over here to the busy side of the cockpit, we have a matching ergonomic locking grip. We have a mechanical disc brake lever here, complete with parking brake, which is very interesting to see. And what that does is locks the front wheel. And then we also have the LCD display that we've seen on quite a few Rad Power bikes. It's a very simple display. You have an up and down to go from 0 to 5, as well as a power and light button. And then one thing that is interesting about this display is that this bike, being a trike, actually has reverse. And then the way the reverse works on this display is you simply depress and hold the down button for a few seconds and an R will be displayed. And then at that point, you can simply twist the throttle and the bike will go backwards. Really cool to see that. It's something we didn't think that would be really cool to see on an e-bike, but after having pedaled this around the shop a little bit and used the reverse, it's really fun to use. And it's a really cool feature. You can kind of like parallel park it between other bikes and things. It's nice to see.
Yeah, this bike, of course, is all about accessibility. So someone might not be able to move the bike around and hop off and even push this electric bike. So adding reverse just gives it more versatility. And if you're wondering why there is no right brake, that is because this bike has coaster brakes. Those are the same brakes that you might have used when you're a kid. That means that when you pedal backwards, it is going to stop the bike. Let's talk about the battery. This is a similar Shark style battery, though it is a new design from Rad Power Bikes, an external battery. To turn the battery on, the key needs to be all the way turned right. And then you also have a battery indicator on the bike so you can get an idea of current battery capacity. Now to remove this battery, you will turn the key to the left. That will lock the bike, so I wouldn't be able to turn it on, but to remove the battery, I will push in and turn left. And with these Shark style batteries, I usually like to grab in two places, one hand at the top, one at the bottom, and simply lift up. The charger port is located on the other side of the battery. Of course, given this is a similar battery pack, we have the Rad Power Bikes 2-amp charger, slightly new design. They actually give you a plate to mount to the wall. Then you can put your charger in there. Really like that if you want a dedicated spot for charging your electric bike. Now this battery pack is a 10-amp hour pack. Now in all the Rad Power Bikes models, except this model, they offer 14 amp hours, but Rad Power Bikes says that this bike can reach a range of up to 35 plus miles. Of course, that's due to the lower speeds that you're going to be traveling on this bike. Let us know down in the comment section below if you'd like to see a full range test, and we'll see if we can do a video on that. To put the battery back, simply put it above the mounting plate here and slide it into place. Again, if I wanted to be able to turn the bike on, turn that key all the way to the right, remove the keys. You do not need them to ride the bike. Let's jump into the aesthetics on this bike. This is the gray model, and we have some orange accents, Rad Power Bikes on the down tube, RadTrike 1 on the C tube, and some other RadTrike graphics towards the rear of the bike. One of the highlights, I think, of this electric bike, of course, Rad Power Bikes, the company, is all about accessibility, and that has made it to the RadTrike being their most accessible model. The frame comes below the chain guard here. This measurement is 13.5 inches. Now I do want to compare that to the RadXpand 5, which I view as another accessible electric bike offered by the company. This measurement down here is 16 inches, but you can see you would actually have to have your foot a little bit higher to step over. So without a doubt, the RadTrike is the most accessible Rad Power bike on the market. While we're down here, there are 3 cables that go to the controller, which is externally mounted on the rear of the bike. Now, the reason these cables are easy to disconnect is because you can take apart this electric bike by undoing these 4 bolts. The top 2 you will need to remove completely, but the bottom 2 are slotted so you can leave them in at least partially. if you're bringing this bike for transport. We'll throw a picture on the screen of this disassembled and also show off how this bike fits in my van.
And then the pedals on the RadTrike are standard plastic Welgo pedals. Another option for people out there is if they want to add a little bit of color to their trike or customize it a little bit, you could get some colored pedals or something maybe with a little bit extra grip.
Jumping to the rear of the bike, we have the same Kenda 18 by 2.25 inches with these full metal fenders. They have reflectors on them, which is a nice touch. Now, one thing to note, because this is a trike with the coaster brakes that I mentioned earlier, this wheel is going to be the free spinning wheel compared to the right wheel. This is the wheel that's actually locking up when you backpedal on the bike. Let's talk about payload capacity and cargo capability. The RadTrike has a payload capacity of 415 pounds in the rear here. If you're familiar with other Rad Power Bikes models, we have the bolt pattern so you can attach all of the accessories that you want in the rear if you need additional storage. The weight capacity on the rear rack is 60 pounds. In the rear, we have an integrated light. When you turn the lights on, they're always on. And then when you hit the brakes, it does go brighter. And if you turn the lights off, the brake light still goes on when you hit the brakes, which is a nice safety feature. Now, for me personally, if I was riding this bike very often around traffic, I would try to get a light further up on this, perhaps on the rear of the seat. They make some really bright flashing lights.
And then moving over to gearing, this is actually a pretty simple department on this bike because it is a single speed. So in the front, we have a 42 tooth front chainring, and in the rear underneath this plastic, you actually have a 16 tooth. And stay tuned for the first person riding footage where we'll show you what this gearing is really capable of on this bike.
Now, given this is a trike, it looks a little bit different down here. Just wanted to give you a close-up of the rear gearing as well as both of those chains. Really like that they included a chain guard here, going to keep any cargo from getting any dirt or grime from the chain.
And then moving up to the seat, this is a super wide seat that they added a back to, which is nice to see for extra comfort. And then one thing we wanted to point out, this is a standard seat post like you see on a lot of bikes. So if you did want to change out your seat, you would not have to buy a new seat post. You would be able to simply unbolt this one and bolt on whatever seat fits your butt the best.
Speaking of the seat, let's see how two different height riders fit on this electric bike.
So I'm 5'8", and this low step over, I mean, I barely have to bring my knee up past, nowhere near 90. I mean, it just simply steps right over and sit on it. There we go. And yeah, I mean, this fits, it's a really nice cockpit. It's simple, it's comfortable. I can lean back a little bit. It really is nice. And then now Ryan's gonna jump on here and show us.
Being that I'm a taller rider, I'm going to raise this seat post right to its minimum insertion point. This is something to be aware of on any electric bike that you're looking at purchasing, because that is the maximum height that this seat post can safely go. I know we've been talking a lot about accessibility, but it really is what this bike is designed for. It can fit riders all the way down to 4'10". And as a rider who's 6 feet tall, with the seat in its highest position, I can still get full leg extension and ride this bike comfortably.
And one thing I realized I forgot to call out up here in the cockpit is that the RadTrike does come with a metal bell. Just before we go on any ride, you're gonna have to try and fit this bike out of a door. So one thing I know Rad did try and do with this bike is that they made the rear end width just small enough that I believe it fits out of any door. Let's give that a try on our way out here.
Now the rear measurement is 32.5 or 33 inches, right around there.
And one thing to call out is that you are gonna have to go out the door as straight as possible, but it does fit, and just barely. But this kind of is a nod to the accessibility. You don't have to disassemble the bike to get in and out of your house. You're able to roll it right in and out of your doors. There you go.
With that, let's get into the first person riding footage and see what this bike can do. One of the things I really like about the RadTrike is they made it as portable as a trike can be, and it fits in the back of my van. Now I did put the parking brake on so it wouldn't move around. And while it's a little bit awkward to carry, it would be much easier with two people. It's not much heavier than other electric bikes that I've reviewed on the channel. And I also removed the battery, which lowers the weight. And I also removed the seat post. Put the seat post in. And of course the battery. We'll put my cell phone holder on here so we can get an accurate speed reading. So there you have it. If you have a big SUV or van, this bike might fit in it, so you can take it out on some adventures, which is really cool. All right, it was really fun unboxing this electric bike and doing the walk around and getting to know all the differences of this electric bike compared to a lot of the other two-wheel electric bikes that I review. But let's get into some first-person riding footage because that's where the fun really begins on this electric bike. I have the speedometer app by Coolnix because we do not have the rad display telling us speed. And our first test will be throttle alone. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, throttle. 5 miles an hour, 7, 9, and 13 miles an hour, 14 miles an hour. Looks like it's holding us at 13 miles an hour according to the GPS. Now, one of the reasons that this bike has that top speed is really you don't want to be traveling much faster than this on an electric trike. This is meant to be a very accessible electric bike. Now, the other thing that I noticed riding this electric bike around is when you start from a stop and use the throttle, the motor really just nicely eases you into it. And so you're not going to feel like you're jerked off the bike or it's too much power. And of course, that's by design. I'm sure Rad spent a lot of time tuning how this bike takes off. And just to note, the throttle does work in pedal assist level 0. Now, I'm sure some people will be wondering, can you ride this electric bike with no battery power? I imagine most people won't want to. I'm going about 6 miles an hour and still putting in a decent amount of effort. Let's start in pedal assist level 1. And I have to imagine that a lot of people, just due to the gearing, are going to want to use that throttle just to get started, because it's a little bit easier to use the throttle and then start pedaling once you're at a faster speed. And according to the GPS, I'm going about 6 miles an hour. And I did speak to Rad a little bit about the pedal assist levels, and they viewed pedal assist level 1 as the pedal assist level that you might just use if you were going for a ride with perhaps someone walking next to you, just a very slow cadence. Of course, that's where you're going to maximize range. And I do feel like I'm putting in a decent amount of effort still. So if you wanted to get some exercise, pedal assist level 1 is going to be a good pedal assist level to do that. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 2. So we had 5 or 6 miles an hour on pedal assist level 1. And I don't feel a huge change into pedal assist level 2. We are at 7 miles an hour for a second there. And I'm just going to show off the cornering here. Now, of course, you do want to slow down before you go into a turn. But my wife and I both agreed that this bike is much more nimble. You can take far sharper corners than I would have anticipated. Pedal assist level 3. So I felt like 1 and 2 pretty similar, getting a decent amount of effort. I feel some relief from my legs and going a little bit faster, 7 miles an hour, but I'm still able to provide some decent amount of effort, staying at still a slower speed. 8 miles an hour. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 4. And this is where I really feel the motor kick on. We're going about 9 miles an hour. And my legs are without a doubt spinning faster. I could do this cadence. So it feels like the bike is really optimized for pedaling around the 9, 10 miles an hour. And this is probably a good cadence for people who are looking for a nice, accessible electric bike. Put in some effort, but not overly putting in effort. You have the lower pedal assist levels for that. All right, let's go into pedal assist level 5. And again, even though I started in pedal assist level 5, it really just eases you into it and then gives you more power as you get to a higher speed. I just really like that. Rad Power Bikes is well known for their accessible electric bikes. And at pedal assist level 5, we're hitting that 13 miles an hour. And this is a faster cadence than I would prefer. If we had gears, I would shift up. But again, that's all personal preference. All right, so we're in pedal assist level 3. Let's go down and hold the R button, and now I can use the throttle. And yeah, really nice. Not surprisingly, it's not giving you a ton of power going in reverse because you want to do so at a slower speed. But I really like that they threw a reverse on this bike. It just makes it that much more easy to navigate this electric bike. And in reverse, we're just going a few miles an hour, 3 miles an hour. And I can see a little bit with the steering. If you're really taking a sharp corner, because you are on a trike, you can really have that wheel. Now this really is my first time on a trike. And while it takes a little bit getting used to, if you've ridden an electric bike before, the steering isn't overly different. You just feel the wider, the two wheels in the back, so that changes things slightly, but it's pretty easy to get used to. It just took me a few minutes. All right, so we know how this bike performs on flat ground, but let's see how it does up our large hill climb test. Okay, let's get into the hill climb test. This is the hill that we test out all of the electric bikes that we review, so you can compare and contrast. We'll put a picture of the hill on the screen because it looks so much smaller on the GoPro, and we'll also throw the specs up there as well. Now, if my experience holds with other Rad Power bikes, this bike should make it up on throttle alone. That will be our first test. Just a note, it is pretty cold in Wisconsin today. I'm trying to keep out of any icy areas. And the battery was fully charged up before I started this test. And we got up to speed, and the hill is just about starting. All right, GPS is reading 13 miles an hour. No problem so far. Actually feels like the motor is handling this quite nicely. Getting to a steeper section, 12 miles an hour. Not bad at all for an electric trike. Just a note, I am a lighter weight rider at around 145 pounds. Back up to 13 miles an hour, and I think that might be the minimum speed. This actually fared much better than I thought it would. I knew it would probably make it up the hill, but I just didn't know how fast we would be able to go. All right, we are approaching the top of the hill, but this is still an electric trike with some pedals. So I'll go back down the hill and do the hill climb test while pedaling, see how it does. Let's talk a little bit about braking coming down the hill before I start going back up the hill while pedaling. I have to say this, while a mechanical disc brake did provide plenty of stopping power, I was getting up to what Rad Power Bike says is the max speed you should go downhill, around 15 miles per hour, and then trying out the front brake, trying out the rear brake, and both brakes performed really well. Obviously, you're going to get the most stopping power using both of them, but with the coaster brakes, I was able to lock up the wheel, and same with the front one. So pretty impressed. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, it just gets a little sketchy over 15 miles an hour. And so I would say these brakes are plenty capable for what this bike is designed to do. All right, let's start the hill climb test while pedaling. Now I am going to want to go into a higher pedal assist level. I'm in pedal assist level 1 now, just inching along at about 4 miles an hour. Let's go into pedal assist level 2. Feel the motor kick on. I would want to go higher, pedal assist level 3. All right, now we're getting a little bit more motor power. Hill really still hasn't started in earnest yet. Going about 6 miles an hour. This would be a pretty significant workout. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 4. All right, there we go, getting some relief on those legs. Pretty big jump from 3 to 4 in my opinion, going about 10 miles an hour. And I am providing some effort still, but my legs are spinning at perhaps a slightly faster cadence than I would otherwise prefer. So this would probably be the pedal assist level I'd go up the hill if I wanted to conserve a little bit of battery. Let's go ahead and go into pedal assist level 5, and I can hear the motor kick on. And again, as I talked about in the last footage, riding this on flat ground, my legs are really spinning now, so I would probably stick in the pedal assist level 4 going up this hill. And of course, we already know that the bike can make it up the hill on throttle alone, and getting up to that 12, 13 miles an hour while pedaling. All right, with that, let's get into the third-person riding footage, and I'll give you my concluding thoughts on the Rad Power Bike's RadTrike. Rad Power Bikes launching an electric trike wasn't on my list of things I expected to see this year, but now after riding this RadTrike and reflecting on the launch, it seems so obvious that the company would go down this route with their focus on making e-bikes accessible and easy to ride. The company now touts over 550,000 Rad riders, which is an impressive feat, and of course, they continue to hold the title for the largest e-bike company in North America. At $24.99, the Trike isn't cheap, given you can pick up an e-bike for around $1,000, but given the extra complexities of a Trike and the components, it seems like a reasonable price to me. What surprised me the most about this e-bike was the size. It's a smaller form factor that I think a lot of people will appreciate. I expected a large, sluggish e-bike that would be hard to maneuver, but the RadTrike is anything but. It's nimble, and heck, it can even fit through doorways with its width of about 33 inches. Even with this width, it still felt plenty stable, albeit at slower speeds. My wife was sure to put this to the test. I wouldn't recommend the street tires for conditions like this where there's ice and snow patches, but the 3 wheels are more confidence-inspiring compared to a 2-wheel e-bike in these types of conditions. By the way, check out our full unboxing video to see how this thing is Jenga'd into a way smaller box than you'd expect. Overall, while not having experienced other trikes, I really like the design. The BMX-style handlebars that fold, comfortable seat, easy-to-use display, and of course, the extremely generous standover height of 13.4 inches. The ability to fairly easily take the bike apart in 2 pieces is a nice option for transport, but surprisingly wasn't even necessary with my van. The motor seems more than capable for what this e-bike was designed to do, and the reverse function is a nice feature. Like all Rad Power Bikes models, the pedal assist levels and throttle is carefully tuned. I would have liked to see a larger battery than the 10 amp hour battery, since at time of recording, all Rad Power Bikes models have 14 amp hour batteries, but the estimated range from Rad of 20 to 35 miles plus seems like it would be sufficient. Of course, the lower speed you will be traveling on the Trike works in your favor for extending range. Let me know what you think about the battery capacity in the comment section below, and perhaps we'll do our own range test. The coaster brake was a great addition, not only for simplicity, but that increases accessibility as well for those with sensitive hands. The front brake performed better than I expected, and the parking brake is kind of a necessity on a Trike. On to the accessories. If I were to outfit this Trike to my liking, I'd include the front rack paired with the small front basket and then the large basket in the rear. The roll top bags would round out the Trike nicely, similar to what you see here. I'll throw links to these accessories down in the description. And for those pet lovers and those who live somewhere sunnier than we do, Rad has some in-development accessories, a pet carrier trailer, and this canopy that, well, kind of speaks for itself. Be sure to subscribe because we will absolutely be doing an accessory video on this e-bike. If you plan to purchase a RadTrike or any Rad power bike, we have one request. Do us a huge favor and use our link in the description prior to purchase. It supports our work here at eBike Escape, costs you nothing, and keeps us pumping out content. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this trike in the comment section below. Should we review more electric trikes? I certainly hope that this launch is a catalyst to get more people outside enjoying e-bikes who maybe otherwise would be unable to do so. Perhaps it will set a chain reaction through the e-bike industry and we'll see more electric trikes enter the market. As always, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.